يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Let's Talk with me, Julie Alli. And it's exactly a week since we celebrated the Mubarak day of Eid. Have you recovered, or are you one of those fortunate people who have decided to keep the 6 rosas in the month of Shawwal? Please remember us in your du'as if you have, and may it go well for you. Eid was wonderful. Alhamdulillah, it was with family and friends, and I trust it was the same for you. But it's back to business, back to reality, and let's just hope that you're not going to let the proper and healthy eating habits go out the window, because alhamdulillah, the month of Ramadan was truly a wonderful month of training of all of our 5 senses. So inshallah, may you hold on to those wonderful habits that you managed to inculcate in this Mubarak month of Ramadan that has just passed by. That being said, it's time for us to get this show on the road, and we have amazing guests. We're going to be talking to an author about his book, which is entitled Addicted to the Addict. We're also going to be talking about the South African Transport Conference. Does it matter that we talk about something like this? I do believe it does, because we're going to be looking at disruptive technologies as far as the transport space is concerned. But first up, we're going to talk my favorite subject, entrepreneurship. That is the buzzword currently. And all the business gurus tell us that we must forget about having jobs for life. We now need to think differently, not only in South Africa, but globally. We need to think about starting up our own little businesses. That is the only way to survive and move forward. So on the show today, we have someone called Shavira John. She's with a company. In fact, she's the co-owner of a company called the Malanda Group. And she's here to talk about the successful entrepreneur and how her company is out to support the young or even the old entrepreneur. Shavira, morning, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lovely to have you here. Now, you're very passionate about entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Because as I've just indicated in my introduction, that globally we are being told that the days of jobs for life are gone, long gone by. You need to be very innovative in your thinking. You need to be business-minded. You need to be sharp. You need to be savvy for you to be able to survive in the business world.
Yeah.
Before we get to the entrepreneur and how you and the Malanda company can help the entrepreneur to get where they're meant to be, what's your background, what's your profession, and how come you in this space?
So by profession, I'm a chartered accountant, and I did my articles at Deloitte and completed in 2012. I then went on an overseas secondment before coming back as a manager at Deloitte. And in 2015, a colleague of mine from Deloitte and I decided to branch out into our own business, and we started the Malanda Group of companies. At that point, it was just the Malanda Advisory business, which focused on chartered accountants and providing managed solutions to clients, essentially trying to fix their problems and assisting them in getting all of their processes in line. We then opened up a placements company because we saw the need for, firstly, our internal business, being the advisory business, but also for fitting in the right human capital at companies to allow them to grow together with the company. We then also opened up a digital company, and that was basically because we saw a need for digital transformation as well, and we started up a digital company both for internal use and for clients as well. And we had an opportunity thereafter to open up a UK-based company. So in May 2018, we opened up a UK-based company.
Doing what?
So doing a bit of advisory and recruitment. So those were the main fields that we were playing in. So chartered accounting, financial advisory, and recruitment in that space.
So how does a South African-based company open up a branch in the UK and service that client? Because I should imagine the culture is pretty different.
Very different.
Do you then get an English person, a Britisher, to run the company for you? And is there space in the UK market and globally? You know, here I'm thinking we are being told that the days of corporates are coming to an end. The few or the big corporates that are in existence will probably limp along, but it is the age of the entrepreneur.
Agreed. And the culture in the UK for entrepreneurs is at such a far ahead away from South Africa. It's such a mature culture in that
kind
space.
Of saturated already?
Saturated as well, compared to South Africa, the South African market as such. And I think when we decided to branch out into the UK, we didn't realize that the market was going to be so saturated with entrepreneurs as such, but we've definitely learned a lot, and we're trying to bring that learning from the UK into South Africa and try to advance the entrepreneur market and the mindset of people in South Africa to reach those levels of maturity within the entrepreneur space.
That's a first world country you're talking compared to what you're trying to get right in South Africa. What are the differences and the challenges maybe? Because as you said, they're way ahead of us, possibly 10 years ahead of us. How does that marketplace look like as compared to us here in South Africa?
I think the biggest issue is capital, and having the banks having the confidence to provide capital to companies in the startup space. I think it's difficult to find the confidence to provide venture capital to different companies when they don't really have a story behind them. It's never been tried and tested as such. And I think that's where we're trying to come in to say, okay, let us help you to figure out what you're trying to do and what's the best way to give your company a reputation before you go to a bank with a business plan to say, I need money to continue with this this venture of mine as such. The UK market it's trusted. It's a first world country. So you almost, when you think about it, you think of success immediately. And if we can do that in an innovative way in South Africa together with, partners throughout South Africa, then I think we stand a chance of one day getting to that level. It is going to take time, obviously, but I think that if the confidence in entrepreneurs in South Africa, get elevated, I think there's definitely, a chance for South African entrepreneurs to be seen in the same light as that of the US and the UK as well.
At the start of the show, I indicated that entrepreneurship is one of my favorite subjects. We've had lots of professionals come in to talk about it because it's a big thing. It's huge in South Africa. If people don't start up their own businesses, they're going to be unemployed. So explain this concept of entrepreneurship to us here on the show this morning.
I think just to speak about your point, I think the unemployment rate at this point is telling us that there's not enough jobs available for the people that are available in the country, and I think the entrepreneur space is the one that's going to curb this unemployment rate. And for me, entrepreneurship is finding something that you're really passionate about and changing it into something that you can either employ a lot of people, and that you can do something that you really love. You can make a difference. You can add value to the space that you're in. And for me, that is how we started up our business in terms of we were passionate about finance, we were passionate about people, and we were passionate about making a difference. And I think when we couple those three things together with a lot of hard work and sacrifice as well, the business just grew and flourished from there. So I definitely think that with the right partnering and encouragement from bigger businesses as well, and government to a certain extent as well, I think that the entrepreneur space is going to evolve, and it's going to be one to be reckoned with, essentially.
We have a lot of women I'm not quite sure if we can actually call them entrepreneurs, but we have a lot of women in-home businesses,
Yes.
whether it's designing, dressmaking, call it what
Beauty,
you
yes.
like, the beauty industry and the cooking industry
Yes.
as well. And they're making good business in that space.
Yes.
Would you suggest that they continue doing things the way they're doing it, or should they start getting into this entrepreneurship, space?
Yeah.
Because obviously moving to this space means that you need to register your business,
Yes.
and then there's issues around tax, etc.
Agreed. So I think a lot of people are scared of those implications, and they don't have the full picture of it as well. Registering a business actually gives you protection to a certain extent as well. So
Like what?
So as an individual, you can be sued in your own capacity. As a company, the company is the legal person as such, and a lot of people are not aware of those type of things. I mean, if you think about the food, somebody cooking at home, something goes wrong and they get food poisoning or someone dies from it, there's quite bad consequences to that. How do you protect yourself? Do you have the right insurance as such? And I think there's a cost element that comes with it that a lot of entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs are scared of. But I think once again, we want to use our experience and say, okay, this is the challenges that we face. This is what we've learned over our entrepreneur experience, and how can we help you to realize what is best for your business and to help you get to that point essentially. So coming back to your question on, should they continue in their home businesses or should they scale? And I think that it's over a time period. It isn't something that you can say, I'm doing, this beauty thing at home and I want to go and I want to open up 10 businesses. It doesn't really happen that way. For some people it does, but generally it's a process, and it is something that I think they should consider. They should consider scaling, because that essentially is going to curb the unemployment rate. You're going to employ people that are going to be able to assist you. So be it, peeling potatoes or doing eyebrows or whatever the case is, it is a job employment issue that we're facing right now. And if you can help curb that problem, essentially, then I think we're going to be winning as a society.
Okay, let's go for an ad break. When we come back, we're going to talk more entrepreneurship. And I also want to unpack level 1, triple BEE. What does that mean? How does that impact on entrepreneurs and big businesses as well?
Perfect.
Shavira John is my guest. We're talking entrepreneurship, and we do hope that if you're thinking of going this way with your small business or starting out as an entrepreneur, then listen to her closely, and she's the person you want to tap into to assist you get your business on the road. And welcome back. We're talking to Shavira John. She's a professional chartered accountant, but she's also opened her own company in conjunction with someone else, obviously. It's called the Melanda Group, and she's here to give a hand up to entrepreneurs. What were the challenges when you opened your own company? I mean, you were associated with Deloitte's internationally known company.
Yes.
Anybody associated with a Deloitte's have arrived.
Yes.
And here you decide you're going to break away from them and start up on your own.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to reach your first, level of, obviously you set targets for yourself for the first point of target?
I think we went into the business not really knowing what to expect. We were very lucky to have our first client, which was a large listed entity, and that essentially defined who our clients were going to be and are still at this point. So we deal a lot in the large listed entity space. I think that going into business, there's a lot of challenges because we're not fully aware of what this journey actually entails. My business partner and I actually gave ourselves 6 months to fail because we didn't know exactly what it was.
6 months to fail.
Yeah.
I like that. But you didn't fail. In fact, you're really a flourishing business. How long have you been in business?
In October, it's 4 years. So, I think we've crossed the 6 month part at this point. So, really good.
It must have been quite daunting.
Very daunting. I think you're coming from a big four auditing firm, internationally recognized, and you're starting up something that nobody knows. They don't know the name. They don't know if the company is credible, and you're trying to fight with or compete with the big companies, in that space, and to try to build this reputation for yourself, and you're not really sure whether it's going to succeed. And I think it's that uncertainty that really is one of the biggest problems, because you're trying to push through and you just don't know whether you're going to succeed in the end. So
you're on your way up now, aren't you?
Yeah.
But it does mean a lot of hard work, doesn't it?
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of time away from family. It's a lot of time that at your laptop. It's a lot of innovation as well. We're moving into this digital age, the fourth industrial revolution, and you need to keep up with the times as well. You can't go to a client with a solution that worked 10 years ago, because chances are there's been so much technological advancement that you're going to be outdated if you're still sticking with your old methods of doing things.
Is there still place for a company like yours and for chartered accountants and accountants in general with the advent of the fourth industrial revolution? We know that machines and technology is making lots of positions obsolete. Where do you as accountants stand, chartered accountants, and your type of business that is solutions driven? Is there still going to be a place and a space for you?
So I believe that there is definitely still a space for chartered accountants. We've been a scarce resource right up until now, and I think that we bring a different element where not just where we can do a recon or those type of things, but we bring the human element as well, where we're able to analyze data as such and interact with people with the different situations that are going on. So businesses are not all flourishing. Some of them are doing really bad in this bad economy as well. And with the chartered accountant, if you can bring that skill and be able to have the human element when it comes to even be in retrenchment and so forth, you can't get a machine to go to a person and explain why this has happened. And I think that human element is what sets us apart.
So you will continue encouraging young people to go into that profession?
Of course.
Because there are jobs probably guaranteed for the next 10 or 15 years. That being said, you've now decided to put your hand out to entrepreneurs. But just before we get there, just unpack a level 1 triple BEE. What's that all about? And if your company boasts that title, what does it do for you?
Okay, so triple BEE is broad-based Black economic empowerment, and it was basically a policy that was introduced by government for companies to transform the country, giving previously disadvantaged companies a chance to play fairly in the corporate world, essentially. And yes, we do boast a BEE level 1 certification, and I think
how do you get the certification?
So it's based on the ownership being one of the main elements, and the more Black owners there are as such, the higher your score is, as well as your procurement and all of those type of things. But it plays a big part in corporates, and corporates are now driving the BE or triple BE policy as such within their companies, and there's a drive to give entrepreneurs a space as well in corporates to showcase what they have. So definitely something that we are seeing a change in companies and them driving it. We also seen a lot of BE companies coming into play that are helping the companies reach that BE 1 level, and if not 1, at least get near to that.
So as part of your certification being triple BEE, you have to put a hand out to entrepreneurs. So what exactly is it that you're doing in that space? And do they pay for the assistance or the support that you provide to them?
So we have recently opened up a business called Eminent Solutions, and in the entrepreneur space, what we're trying to do is we're trying to partner up with businesses to provide them with the finance, IT, or digital and human capital element, allowing the entrepreneur to go out to find clients to generate their revenue as such, and we almost being business advisors to put it lightly, saying, okay, this is where your finances are sitting, this is what your cash flow is looking like, this is where we see you in the next 6 months, how can we help you change your approach to ensure that there is sustainability from your business going forward. And I think that's where we're positioning ourselves to partner up with small businesses, new entrepreneurs, people that are thinking of going into business but are unsure about it, that are too scared to take the plunge, and using our experience from what we had gone through to basically help them.
And
in that
obviously,
process.
if I'm a young and upcoming entrepreneur, I'd love to know where I stand, where and how I can expand and grow. But I'm too afraid of the type of fees you're going to charge me. So how do you reassure me that it's going to be affordable?
So what we've done at Eminent is we have had a lot of talks with people, and we've offered them free consultation, essentially. In the consultation, what we do is we try and unpack what they're trying to achieve. And then we basically see how we as Eminent can assist them in, getting to that position. We tailor make all our packages. So what's good for one company may not really work for another. One company may just need digital. The other company may need human capital. The other companies may just need advice, and we're there for that and to guide them through that process. So it's tailor-made. It's not prices that are exorbitant like your big corporates get charged.
So you give a free consultation first, and then tailor make a package which is affordable to the entrepreneur. How do people get hold of you? Because we've come to the end of the interview.
Okay, perfect. So you can catch me on Facebook, Instagram. My details are on there, but you can also go to our website, which is www.mulanda.co.za. Our offices are based in Athol Towers, so if you're more than welcome to come through there as well. And
don't be afraid, you qualify for a free consultation first time up.
Yes,
Lovely talking to you, and
thank
keep
you so much.
that hand out to all those young entrepreneurs.
Thanks so much.
Shabira John from the Malinda Group talking to us about entrepreneurship, the challenges, the pitfalls, and how companies like hers can help you get a head start in this space. Still to come, we're going to be talking to an author about a book called Addicted to the Addict, and we're also going to be looking at the South African Transport Conference, which is going to be happening sometime soon. And welcome back. We're now joined by two gentlemen in studio. They are Kurt van Heerden and Quincy Jacobs. They're here to talk about a rehab center they run on the West Rand. But Kurt's going to also talk about a book he's written which is called Addicted to the Addict. Let's hear how this came about. Let's talk about the journey of the addict. Is there hope? That's the $1 million question. Morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you so much for having us.
Lovely to have you here. We're here to talk about a serious social issue, not only in South Africa, not only in a particular race group, but a global issue, and that is addiction. You are a pastor by profession, and you've written a book called Addicted to the Addict. Quite a journey. Why have you become a pastor, number one, and why have you written this book?
I think number one, why I became a pastor is simply because of my love for people, my ability to see beyond their brokenness and look into the depths of their soul and trying to heal what life has done to them. And one of the reasons why I wrote Addicted to the Addict is because I understood that if I was ever going to desire to help an addict, I had to become addicted to the person first and not judgmental towards his addiction as a person. So when I write about being addicted to the addict, I write about how we have to separate the addiction and the person. Because if we do not separate the addiction and the person, we never get to identify who is the individual who's bleeding behind his drug of choice.
An addict or addicts are suffering from a disease. Addiction is a disease. And I think not till we recognize that will we truly be able to help our loved ones who are addicted. But your story has to involve a lot of broken people around you for you to have opened up a rehab center. Tell us a little more about that.
No, definitely. Growing up in an impoverished community, Nuclear, Westbury, being exposed to gun violence, gangsterism, having witnessed unbearable acts, growing up constantly seeing people getting stabbed, brutally beaten. These were common occurrences for me. Fortunately for me, I did not fall prey as a victim to my surroundings. I managed to escape that.
How?
Through my ability to play cricket and played well. As an addict would divert towards his next fix, I would numb myself through a set of cricketing stumps and a tennis ball. And at that stage within my life, sport is the one thing that kept me out of court and prison. And because of my cricketing ability, I got a scholarship to a private cricketing school called Helpmekaar College. So what that allowed me to do was spend 80% of my time at school in a completely different culture. All white school, completely Afrikaans. So I was constantly in between these two different cultures, which gave me a different perspective on life, which I would not have received unless I have received a full scholarship to the school. Traveling back and forth in between these two different cultures gave me an insight into what people of my community would never be exposed to unless someone, such as myself, makes a sacrifice to come back and heal those who are broken and those who did not, like myself, have the privilege to escape the unbearable
Very
acts.
well said, and obviously you're one of the fortunate ones, because
Yes.
someone else in your situation would have been very conflicted by these two different worlds that he was exposed to on a daily basis.
Definitely.
And might have fallen short.
Definitely.
You rose above all, against all odds, and you've made a life for yourself. This very impoverished area that you've come from, are you worried that the situation's getting worse rather than better? And are there enough Kurts in the world, and in that suburb in particular, to start making a difference?
It's definitely a concern that it is not getting worse. I think it's at its worst. And one of the things we have to try and identify is not so much be judgmental towards what's happening. And as I said in the beginning, it's understand the reason. Because once we understand the reason, it becomes easier to relate to the person. And that is why when people have drug marches, I'm not a fan of a drug march, because a drug march is something where you tell a drug dealer or you tell a drug user and a drug seller, I'm against what you do. And I get that. We're against what they do. But our approach needs to change. Because if our approach does not change, they just stand up in rebellion every single time. Our approach stays a judgmental one.
Okay, we're going to come back to you and the approach and what approach we should be taking.
Sure.
And more about the rehab center.
That's correct.
Quincy Jacobs, welcome to the show. And you just told me off air that you have been using illicit drugs for the past 20 years.
Yes.
You have been clean for 3 years.
Yes.
Please God, may your journey of sobriety continue.
Thank you so much.
What is your story? Why did you resort to drugs, and how did that mess up your life?
I think more the communities that we came from was a big factor in choices that we made. Trying to hang out in the in crowd, trying to become popular. You never expect to become an addict. Your primary and chief goal is to become popular. And before you know it, you get caught up in this culture that starts tormenting you and just starts destroying you, slowly carving away at your soul, at your ability to be the man that you have been predestined to be.
What does it cost you, this 20-year journey of addiction? What has it cost you in terms of relationships, family, etc.?
It's cost me a lot. I had dreams of becoming a journalist. I studied public relations and journalism. I was quite good at it. I was one of the front-runner students in the class that I was. But because of the drugs, it just never culminated that I came to a place where I could become the journalist that I aspired to be, that I could become the man that I aspired to be.
It's never too late.
It's never too late, yes. So I am busy working on my future. I've been fortunate enough to have Kurt in my life, who is an awesome mentor.
How did this happen? How did this partnership come about? Did Kurt rescue you from a very dark place?
You know, what I've actually told Kurt is that he was more silent mentor to me for a very long time. When Kurt started IOG and when he went
IOG being?
Institution of Grace,
Okay.
the rehab facility that we run. I constantly used to follow him on social media and everything, because the first time I met Kurt was at another rehab that he had also opened up. And I was always following him on social media, and I just decided to go to a church that he was running just to meet up with him and have a chat, and the rest is basically history because we just reconnected.
Okay, we're going for our first ad break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the rehab center and just how you guys are changing lives. Please God, I'm sure you are. I'm talking to Kurt and to Quincy about the rehab center on the West Rand, and also the book that Kurt has written, Addicted to the Addict. Addicted to the Addict is the book we're talking about. Well, in fact, we're not talking about the book. We're talking about the journey of the two guys sitting in studio here with us. The author, who is Kurt van Heerden, and the recovering addict, who is Quincy Jacobs, and they work jointly at a rehab facility on the West Rand, Hamburg to be precise. You've been running for 6 years now, and what's your success rate been like at the facility? Because I hate to say this, but you often hear people saying once an addict, always an addict.
Yeah.
And I feel that that is such a damning statement to make to someone who's trying to recover.
I think success rate, you've got to view it through two different perspectives. You get success rate around those people who's completed your program, and then you get success rate around those who's implemented what they've thought and what they've learned within your program.
Having completed the program and not necessarily have rehabilitated, is that a good thing?
I don't find that as a success rate. I don't calculate those
You
people.
don't? Okay.
No, because that means I've wasted my time, they've wasted their time, and we've wasted their family's money. I'm only passionate about working with an addict who desires not only to be clean, but to find purpose and destiny. If you want to be clean and only be clean, then don't book into my facility. But if you want to be stretched and challenged and become compelled to finding purpose and destiny and make something of your life and be an entrepreneur, discover why you've been relapsing every single year, why the cycle of your addiction has not come to an end, then you book into my facility.
And blame everybody else for
But
your
yourself.
relapse. Absolutely. So what program do you follow? Because we do know that globally, a lot of people follow the 12 steps,
Yes.
and there are one or two other new programs that have been introduced. What program do you follow?
I have a very different perspective when it comes to following a program. I believe I follow relationship. When I build relationship with someone, it's an internal program I install into them. Because a question I always ask the guys booking into our facility, what keeps you when the program no longer keeps you? It's relationship. So as much as we offer a 6-month, 4-month, and a 2-month program, our 6-month program focuses on rewriting your story. Most addicts, believe it or not, they don't have a house to sleep when they hit rock bottom. Family doesn't want anything to do with them anymore. So they book into facilities with an impure motive, just to get back home. Now I've had my fair share of dealing with addicts such as that. They waste my time and they waste their time. 4-month program is about the life behind addiction. What many people don't know, you get your addiction, but then you get what the addict's addiction has made them addicted to. So as much as they find sobriety, in their isolation after sobriety, they fight what the addiction has made them addicted to. And then we have our 2-month program, which focuses on unleashing the entrepreneur. I believe hidden in every single addict is an entrepreneur and also a leader waiting to be discovered. That the reason why I've diversified the programs to that degree is to break the stigma that's attached to an addict's life.
So even if someone comes to you who is still using whatever their drug of choice might be, and they believe that the 2-month program is going to work for them, would you still take them on, knowing that they are still using?
No, I do an analysis. So for example, in the interview process, I ask questions such as, how long have you been using? What have you been using? So for example, if a heroin smoker comes in fresh from the street, a 2-month program is absolutely non-negotiable.
And he's not thinking rationally in any event.
He's not thinking rationally in any event. But when a young person who's 17 years old walks through my doors and he's a cat smoker, what better way to get him to understand that you don't have to fall prey to the corporate system that you might be enslaved in? So it's not just about cleaning the addict, it's about stretching their minds, enlarging them to think beyond than just what your addiction has made you accustomed to. And then I'm excited about the program we've just launched in the last 2 years, is family coaching. I believe rehabs in general focus so much on the addict, but neglect those who has been affected by their loved one's addiction.
And they need to be interacting with the addict as well and understand where he or she's coming from.
That's correct.
And where they've gone wrong, where they've wronged the addict, and work
correct.
together as a family to
That's
their
correct.
healing. You were addicted for 20 years, you've been clean for the past 3 years. What has worked for you this time around that hasn't worked in the past?
You remember earlier I said the culture that I got used to and that I adapted to. So there is a new culture that has to change. You have to swap your friends, you have to swap your way of thinking. You need mentorship and guidance. Without the proper mentorship, without the proper guidance, you're going to sink. You won't be able to swim. Because what we tend to forget is that in 20 years, we have lost so much from what society has to offer to the average human being, the one that is considered normal. So if you connect with a proper person, a proper mentor, then he'll teach you how to channel yourself back into society, how to channel yourself to grow again, how to channel yourself to become a better person again. Because when you're out on the streets, you just miss out so much. I mean, social media comes about while you are busy smoking your life away. So if you do not know how to use social media correctly, you're going to become a social media addict, naturally.
Mm-hmm. You're now working at the centre.
Yes, I am.
Being in recovery yourself, what is the very strong message you give to addicts who come in to clean up their act? What is it that you believe that you say to them and how you interact with them that does give them their aha moment?
You the story yourself. I think that's the beauty about being me. I'm the story myself, and if I even had more time, I would have told you about my story, and it's horrific. It's harrowing.
Give us 1 or 2 examples. Let's horrify the people out there and let's shock them into reality so that they'll try and hold on to their loved ones.
I was generally what you call a lonesome smoker. I wasn't one that used to hang around in the pack. So when you are what you call a lonesome smoker, what happens is you basically madden yourself. You become mad because you're smoking these copious amounts of drugs all by your lonesome. Sometimes you're around people, but most of the time you're alone. So generally I used to find myself under bridges. I used to find myself sleeping in parks. I used to find myself sleeping in bushes. I used to find myself doing strange, crazy things. I found myself at a place where my family just never used to bail me out of prison anymore if I was caught for possession of drugs, even though they had means to bail me out of prison.
Kurt, have you ever come across an addict like Quincy's story? Did you think, there's really nothing much I can do for you, and just give up on him and say, you've been addicted for 20 years. What can I do to get you out of that dark hole? I don't think I can.
Like an addict gets high from his next fix, I get high when I encounter situations such as this.
Wow.
It's what I strive on, it's what I live for. It's not my calling to connect with those who has a story that's not broken. It's my calling to connect with those who has a broken story. Ones who are the underdog, like Quincy. Never in a million years did Quincy think that he would be in a TV interview, for example.
Hopefully inspiring people out there
with his
to
story.
rethink their stories.
But here he is. It's coming to someone like me saying, you can be what you never thought you'd be. Break the status quo. Don't be another box that people tick off in society. So I strive in moments like this. I strive when I see someone who counted themselves out. I strive when I see the stigma of addiction being broken. I strive. It's my high. I can't live without it. I speak about it in my book, and I open the statement and I say this. Don't ask me to detox, because this is a high that I need to change the addict's life.
Have you ever given up on anybody? And for those who have passed through your doors, as much as you've tried working with them and healing them, because that's what it's about, not cleaning, but healing them, it didn't work. How does that make you feel?
I think once I've asked myself 3 questions, have I tried my best? Did I go the extra mile? And what more could I have done? Once I have the answers to those 3 questions, and I'm satisfied with the answers I've given myself, I wait until the person returns to me. But I never give up on the person.
You let them go.
I let them go.
It's their journey.
It's their journey.
When they're ready, they'll come back.
When they're ready, they'll come back.
For you to be running your center, you have been running for the past 6 years, and please God, may you continue.
Yes.
Or may we reach a situation where the world is drug-free and then you need to close your doors. But till that time comes around, you need support. You need support from family, friends, and well-wishers. How does that work for you?
In terms of people supporting me?
Moral and financial.
So currently, right now, we do charge a monthly fee. But
Which is?
Depending on the program that you book yourself into, that depends upon the fee that we charge. So we charge according to the content that you sign up for, not so much for you just booking into the facility. So we got a full-time staff that is passionate about working with an addict, such as Quincy Jacobs, also Antonello Sabinda, Keegan McKenzie, all these guys coming through the rehab and having a story. So we do receive funding, we do receive sponsorships, and one thing that we are launching currently and recently is asking people to come in partnership with us and say, you know what, I might not have a son or family member who's addicted, but I can lend my time, or I can lend my resources, or I can sow a financial seed into your organization every single month to enable that we clean the next addict, or as you said, heal the next addict.
So what sort of resources are you looking at, apart from finance?
Yes.
People watching us this morning who may live in and around the area and believe that they want to change lives and they can give you some form of moral support. What would that be?
Just time. And I would say that one of the fundamental supports is challenge your perspective about an addict. When you challenge your perspective about an addict, you're supporting me mentally and emotionally. And if you can support me in that aspect, we can journey together to a long, long road of sobriety.
How many people have been through your center in the past 6 years?
Over thousands. Thousands. In and out, thousands. I don't calculate the ones I win. I calculate the ones that still has to be won.
Okay, how many have you won anyway?
If I were to calculate that, I would be lying to you live on air. So I can't really calculate that. But if I were to give an estimated amount, it's definitely over 1,000.
Wonderful. With a minute to wrap up, your message to our viewers this morning.
It's just that there's hope there. There's hope out there for the addicted. There's hope out there for the affected. And they just need chance. They just need help.
Don't give up on yourself.
Don't give up on yourself, and don't give up on the individual.
Closing remarks?
We have to challenge ourselves to see an addict in the same light as those who's never been addicted. And when it comes to viewing an addict, we have to drop the magnifying glass and pick up the mirror. When that is done, we would see what's revealed in our hearts. And once that is revealed, together with the addict, not for the addict, but together with the addict, all of us walk towards a journey of rehabilitation.
Wow. Where do we buy the book and what does it cost?
So the book costs 200 Rand. You can inbox me directly on Facebook or Quincy Jacobs or any one of our leadership. You can also go onto my Facebook page, Addicted to the Addict. All the details are there.
Wonderful talking to you. I pray that God guides you continuously in healing lives and bringing light into the lives of those who feel that there's just absolutely no hope. God bless. Thank you for
so
being
much.
with
Thanks
us.
for having us. Thanks.
There you have it. Kurt and Quincy talking about the rehab center in Hamburg on the West Strand. And of course, the book, please go out and buy the book, Addicted to the Addict, and you will truly be changing a life in a very, very positive way. Welcome back to the final interview for the morning. We now have Dr. Mateta Mokonyama. He is here to talk about the South African transport conference, which I understand happens on an annual basis. I think this is the 38th year running. And we're going to find out about disruptive transport technologies. What on earth is happening as far as the transport system is concerned here in South Africa? We're going to be looking at the taxi industry, the taxi guys hogging the roads. We're going to talk about the condition of the roads. It might not fall under the ambit of what we're talking about this morning, but we'll just pass it by the good doctor. And we're going to look at a whole host of other issues, like the Gautrain. Is it just serving a niche market? What about you and I that has to go to work and the roads are always clogged up and blocked up? So let's hear what these conferences do in fact achieve, if they do at all. Morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Julie. Thank you very much for having us on your program.
Lovely to have you here, and you've heard what I'm going to throw at you. I hope you're ready. But before we get there, I looked at your bio, but I mean, it's pages long. And you've, congratulations, and, I really do commend you for all of your qualifications and all of the work you've done up to now. Do you want to share some of the highlights of your work, and then we'll get on to the conference and the sorry state of South African roads?
I'm a member of the Southern African Transport Conference. I'm based at the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Our business is research, transport research, especially sustainable transport infrastructure systems and operations. Essentially, how do we inform the service delivery of transport and infrastructure in a sustainable way? We work locally and internationally in the areas of passenger transport, freight transport, road infrastructure, rail, maritime, and also aviation. Road safety is one of the programs that we run. Very important, road safety, because it's a big thing in South Africa. We have been carrying out research in that regard for many years. Myself, I work in the area mainly of public transport. How do we design services that are responsive to customers? And how do we design institutions that are essentially responsive to the needs of public transport users?
Are you worried about the state of the public transport system in South Africa compared to, and no doubt people like yourself do go on visits all around the world to see what's working for them. Japan, for example, Europe, Netherlands, and those countries have got brilliant infrastructure in place. What have we learned from them, and what have people like yourself, I mean, you guys, I should imagine, drive policy to a certain degree as well, or you have input into decision making and policy making. What have we seen? I must say, as a regular layperson, I haven't seen much change as far as our roads and infrastructure and transport is concerned. A couple of years ago, and still is, our lives here in the CBD have been in upheaval simply because they were constructing the Rea Vaya the rapid road system. It was an absolute nightmare. And when I look at it, every time I drive by, to me it looks like it's a white elephant. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am.
It's interesting that you express these views. I think the voice of civil society has generally been missing in the conversations. We have engineers, we have scientists, economists who are making inputs into the design, into the running of the services. What we're missing is the voice of civil society to say, this is what we want, and we need to translate that into how we design, how we operate these services. But going into what you mentioned, the likes of Rea Vaya, BRT services, we have very progressive transport policy in South Africa, very progressive.
But it's not playing out.
we have learned from many parts of the world on how to put together policy. We need to be in the implementation mode. We need to implement that we have. And what you have seen so far has been experimental work, going into implementing that policy. We have learned certain lessons. Some were hard lessons. We have learned certain things about how not to implement certain things. BRT services, for example, you cannot just implement them in isolation of the minibus taxis. You need to integrate, you need to make sure that your whole organization is geared towards implementing integrated transport. The way you finance transport it must be informed by those principles of integrated transport planning. So, we've been doing this for the past just over 20, 25 years as a country, but we have made strides, I must say. You see taxis that are on the road now. Recapitalized vehicles. Before this taxi recapitalization program, you had scrappy vehicles running all over. So it's progress. You still have. Mm-hmm. But over the past 20 years, there's been massive change. I must say, we must congratulate ourselves as a country that we have actually made progress. Not enough progress, but we need. That's why we are now at the SATC, we're looking at this issue of disruptive transport technologies. How can we use disruptive technologies to leapfrog ourselves?
Okay, let's talk disruptive transport policies. What exactly are we talking about? They're disruptive transport technologies. How is it going to impact on our everyday lives?
I'll give you one example. When you make a call, it could be a friend, a family member, you take your handset and you make a call. It could be anywhere in the world. You don't care what handset they are using, what mobile operator they are subscribed to. You just make a call and that call will get to them. The same with transport. You want to get to a stage where you don't care whether it's, there's an operator with using red buses or blue buses, a taxi. You want to make sure that when you move from A to B, there is a service that does that. Now, we need to use digital technologies to allow us to build such platforms. I want to say, I want to move from point A to B, and then I need to get services that connect me in the manner that I want to move around in space. Now, using digital technologies will allow us to do that. Road safety, for example. I want to know at any given time when I'm on the road that I have 20% or 80% chance of being involved in a crash. Ooh. And in that way, I can modify how I interact with other vehicles, drivers, pedestrians on the road. We use that information, the data that we collect from devices from all over to inform decision making.
You seem to have amazing resources at your fingertips as the SATC. but it seems that it's not being implemented and utilized in the way it's meant to be utilized. So we're talking road safety, we're talking technologies, we're talking about an informal transport system which is worth billions of rands, and that is the taxi industry. And I'm surprised that up to now, I do know there's been ongoing talks with the government and the taxi industry to try and probably regulate or come to some sort of a working compromise so that you can better service the South African community. We had back in the day, I don't know if they're still in existence, but we had PATCO that was servicing the communities. I don't know if there's an ongoing war with them in the taxi industry. So there are all of those issues that are playing out. If you look at Europe, you look at especially in the summer months, people don't use their motor vehicles because of pollution, etc., and because of costs. They're using bicycles. Is that going to become a reality here as well? And then what about the poor quality of our roads, not only in the CBD, but all around South Africa? So I've thrown a whole host of questions at you. You can take them one at a time. But, you know, I'm talking as a frustrated South African road user.
The Minister of Transport will be there on the first day of the conference. And I believe he will address these things. And what you're saying, you've hit the nail on the head. We've got a fragmented transport system. And we need strong leadership to bring it all together. We can make very good music with our transport system, but it needs very good leadership. Leadership in the municipalities, in our cities, in our provinces, nationally. And in Southern Africa, the AU, for example, has got this massive dream of connecting African cities.
Wow.
In their 2063, rail being one of the modes of transport. But we need very strong leadership to guide that program.
Leadership and money. Resources.
Money, absolutely. Money is one of the most expensive resources that we have. It's a capital-intensive industry. To be able to address the backlogs that you talked about, the maintenance backlogs across the region, you need money. And we need to have innovative ways of financing the infrastructure. And part of this disruptive technologies, we need to explore how to finance infrastructure using alternative ways. Stokvels are making massive amount. How can we use stokvels to invest in transport infrastructure systems rollout? We need to explore these options, but there is no shortage of policy in the country. We need hands to implement. We need to teach. We need to train youngsters that are up and coming to be able to actively participate in the value chain of transport.
The big elephant in the room is called corruption and nepotism. Are you guys going to look at it as far as the conference is concerned? Because it's really, yes, even the taxi industry, if you want them to come on board, it's all about bottom line, is it not?
Yes. We have taxi associations that will be also presenting at the conference. We have cities that are going to be presenting on the progress that they have made in the implementation of their BRT system, the integrated public transport networks. And an element of that is to look at some of those impediments, how they have dealt with corruption in the implementation of infrastructure projects. Of course, it is an impediment. We need to deal with it if we are going to progress in the country. We have billions of rand that we invest in these programs, and every rand needs to find its way into addressing the backlogs. PRASA has got massive backlogs, but just last year, financial year, they returned about 7 billion back to Treasury to say we can't spend it. We cannot have that happening in a country with massive backlogs that we have. So we need to deal with, like you said, corruption head on. Yes.
Okay, let's go for an ad break. When we come back, let me pick your brain more as far as this conference is concerned, and hopefully you can give us some good news going forward. We're talking the upcoming South African Transport Conference, which is going to be happening sometime soon. We're also going to ask the good doctor who are the other speakers and what he hopes they're going to bring to the table, and how that's going to change our lives, regular road users, for the better. Dr. Mateta is in studio talking to me about the South African Transport Conference, which is happening sometime in July at CSIR. And if you're interested in attending, let's just hear when and where, and perhaps get those details. And then I'll continue picking his brain about the issue of the poor state of transport right here in South Africa. With due respect to you, because I know this is close to your heart, but I wouldn't be wrong in saying that it is a poor state of affairs, is it not?
Absolutely. I think there is a lot to be done, huge backlogs. If you look at the daily struggles that people have to go through just to get to work, it's a big problem.
I know this is high-level stuff. The conference is going to be dealing and looking at all of these issues at a pretty high level. And the issues I'm talking about is on-the-ground issues. But it does talk to each other, because if you don't see what's happening on the ground, you'll never be able to get the high level, the strategic stuff. You'll never be able to put it in place to root out all of the problems. Would I be correct in saying that?
In fact, although we cover these high-level things, we also go very operational.
Okay.
Lessons from specific programs, projects that have been implemented. What can we learn so that when we scale up, we factor those lessons? How we design things. We've designed it in this way. Going forward, we need to do this. So although we cover high-level things, we also go into operations. There are sessions, for example, on the participation of women in the transport value chain, a very specific session on that.
And I understand my dear friend Rihanna Musaji is going to be talking about that.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Rihanna will be an activist of note in the transport space on the Thursday, 11th of July. Will be part of that session on maximizing participation of women in the transport value chain. Yeah.
And we certainly will get her post or pre the conference to come and share that information with us here, because the conference is going to be obviously focused on a set number of people, but at least via this show we can reach out to as many more people as we possibly can. That being said, who should attend, and give us the details of how one can register to attend?
Everyone should attend. Transport affects everyone. The users, right up to the policymakers. Historically, it's been accommodating between 600 and 700 delegates. Often the officials in municipalities, cities attend across the continent, internationally as well. We want businesses who buy from transport to attend, to get to influence the space. We want people who supply the transport value chain to attend as well, investors to also attend. Pension funds are heavily invested in the automotive industry, in the transport value chain. You want them to get to understand what is being discussed, because pensions are at stake. When we're talking disruptive transport technologies, how are they going to affect investments going into the future? Students, mainly, I want to encourage students in economics, students in engineering, students in social sciences to attend this conference. We've got pricing that is suitable for students, for professionals. We've discriminated the pricing to make sure that it's accessible. The conference is accessible to a range of
Okay,
people.
so how do we just go to your website to register?
Yes, our website www.satc.org.za. All the details are there. The registration is open right up to when the conference takes place on the 8th of July at the CSIR International Convention Center.
In Pretoria?
In Pretoria, yes.
Okay, so we've talked about Rihanna Musaji, that's going to be giving a talk on the Thursday as well, and the role of women in transport or the transport value chain. Who are the other speakers, and what are, if you can mention some of the other speakers and the type of topics they're going to be discussing?
Okay, we've got, I would say about 130 items.
Over the 3-day
over
period?
The 4 days. Over the 4 days.
Okay.
130. We've got keynote speakers. Dr. Gustav Rode from Aracon, who manages the asset management portfolio in Aracon, on how digital technologies can transform how we manage infrastructure maintenance. We've got Mr. Victor Radebe, who's going to be talking about autonomous vehicles, how they can be adapted in our conditions. We've got the COO of Transnet going to be talking about offshore ports. Can we have a network of offshore ports, deep sea ports, to maximize or reduce the cost of transport, to maximize the use of the coastal line in the continent. We've got speakers that are going to be talking about also distracted driving. They've studied, distracted driving, cell phone use while driving, how it's changing.
Road safety, I should imagine.
Safety, yes.
A big one.
Yes, and other speakers on how to integrate minibus taxis with the non-scheduled services with scheduled services. So it's a wide-ranging topics that are going to be covered in transport, and the good thing is we document. It's a high-quality conference. The contributions are peer-reviewed, scientifically peer-reviewed, and historical records are on our website. So we record the conversations. We present a report to the Minister of Transport every year, to make sure that he knows or she knows.
Let's assume out of this conference you get a few brilliant ideas which are almost doable immediately at a relatively affordable cost to the country. Whatever it might be, let's assume road safety campaigns which have worked elsewhere in the world and would be a right fit for South Africa. How long will it take for that process to reach the minister's desk and for him to give the green light for that to be implemented?
The president has just launched this commission on fourth industrial revolution, and I think platforms like that are going to open up opportunities for entrepreneurs to participate meaningfully in this value chain. So while the minister policies are at high level, I believe the bottom-up approach, like you're suggesting now, is something that will be encouraged. And there's nothing stopping entrepreneurs from suggesting unsolicited proposals to be tabled for municipalities, cities, provinces. So there will be an opportunity to network. All the actors in transport will be there. So if you want ideas to filter into the transport value chain, please make your way.
This is the place to be.
This is the place to be.
Can you share a few opportunities that arose out of this annual conference that has already been implemented and working really well in South Africa? Over the past few years, things that have come up at the conference, which was then ratified, implemented, and it's working like a dream.
I think everything that you see, all the changes that you see in transport will probably find their root in this conference. The BRT Ria Vias, the My City in Cape Town, Go Durban in eThekwini, all of those services found their root in the Southern African Transport Conference. The guidelines on how to design infrastructure would have found their root in that conference, because they are presented, and the views that we receive go into refining those design guidelines.
So you're very happy with that outcome, because you
Yes.
know it all emanated from the conference.
It is a high-quality international conference.
Absolutely. I'm going to digress here, and I'm going to talk about the issue around Uber, the Uber and the taxi wars, safety as far as, especially for women, and I should imagine men as well. Men get mugged of all their belongings. Women are getting raped in Uber taxis and other taxis. Are you guys applying your minds to these type of situations and how to track the perpetrators? And also to minimize the taxi, between the taxi industry, Uber and other taxi associations, the private taxi associations?
Yes, we collect data on travel patterns in the country, and safety consistently over the years is shown as an important reason why certain people do not travel, especially women, at night. There are books written on crime and crime prevention on public transport, rail environment being one of the biggest culprits. So the knowledge of this thing is there. So we need to be able to implement. We need to get SAPS to come read some of these contributions. The law enforcement agencies to interface with these findings. But we cannot divorce ourselves from leadership. Leadership is very important, because to integrate all of these things together, you need leaders who understand why these things need to be integrated, not just working as flavor of the month thing. In the taxi industry as well, the taxi industry will only advance when the leaders in the industry say, we want change and we want to influence our members, our associations to subscribe to that change. Only when that decision is made will we see progress, because top down really doesn't work. It is bottom up that ultimately will work, but you need leadership to drive that. 1
minute to wrap up time. Your take-home message to all our viewers today.
Civil society, we want you to participate in this conference. Job creation is big on the South African agenda. Transport affects job creation in the country. To be able to retain a job, to be able to find a job, you need transport for that. We need civil society's voice to be ingrained in how we deliver services, how we design services, and we need maximum participation of civil society in this conference.
Thank you indeed, and I have no doubt, as always, you've said this conference has been running for the past 38 years. It's going to be a huge success, and that in the coming years we see the success of the conference being played out on our roads and our transport system. Good luck to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
There you have it, Dr. Mateta talking about the upcoming South African Transport Conference, which is going to happen in mid-July at CSIR in Pretoria. Please, he has also indicated that there's going to be lots and lots of job opportunities. So if you're just an ordinary layperson, if you're someone who's wanting to make a difference here in South Africa, get yourself off to the conference and see what opportunities you can hook into. And that's it for our show today. Thank you indeed for watching. Don't forget, we'll be getting together at the same time on Saturday morning. Till then, as always, take care on the roads. And it is Assalamu alaikum and Khudafez from me, Julie Alli.
Ya hello, ya قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حني قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا. يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا